In the world of Naruto, the Mangekyou Sharingan is a powerful and unique ability that grants its user extraordinary powers. Each of the Uchiha Clan members mentioned, Itachi, Sasuke, Shisui, and Obito, have their own distinct abilities with the Mangekyou Sharingan. So today, we're going to see for ourselves whose Sharingan would come out on top in an Uchiha Battle Royale. A few things to discuss before we get into the fight is that we have to lay out some ground rules, so to speak. The first one is that none of these fighters are going to have their visual prowess enhanced in this fight. As in, all of the Uchiha here are just going to be fighting using their own respective MS. For example, in the case of Sasuke, he will not be having his EMS or Rinnegan. It'll be just Sasuke at the tippity top shape during the 5 Kage Summon arc, but with his Susanoo when it was fully devolved, or at least to the extent he could at the time. Likewise for Obito, who will also not have the Rinnegan, but both of his Mangekyou Sharingan. Additionally, in his case, he will also not have 6-pass chakra or Hashirama cells to enhance his visual prowess. But at the same time, he will, like Sasuke, have the same size Susanoo, along with his respective Susanoo weapons, which are the Kamui Shuriken. In short, every Uchiha here will be at the same respective level, only able to use their MS and Susanoo. This makes the fight a lot more even. Also, everyone will be at the best condition that they could possibly be in at the start of the fight. This mainly applies to Itachi, as he's really the only one who's plagued by sickness and whose eyesight was already deteriorating by mid-shippuden. This will also give everyone here the similar usage availability of their Sharingan in terms of chakra and eyesight. As in, I'm assuming in a fight like this, all these combatants are going to need to rely heavily on their Mangekyou Sharingan. The reference point for us that we're going to use in this fight when gauging how long their Sharingan can hold out before they start to go blind, that is 5 Kage Summon Sasuke, as he pretty much just got it not too long before, and we've seen him spam the crap out of it in each fight with his respective Kage. Meaning, at most, assuming that they'll need to do the same for this fight, each Uchiha can last for a good few hours until they start to really feel the effects of the Mangekyou Sharingan. Also, just for the sake of simplicity, we're just gonna take both Izanagi and Izanami off the table. Yes, each fighter can use either one or both if they wanted, but I think in this video, it would just be too chaotic if we had all 4 of them using Izanagi and Izanami. So to make things more fair and simple, we'll just exclude them for this fight. And the last ground rule we're going to use for this is that everyone here is going to be fighting with killer intent. As in, the gloves are off, everyone is fighting without restraint. Because Obito aside, I'm sure Itachi, Sasuke, and Shisui would otherwise not want to seriously injure one another. But with everyone fighting all out, this problem is completely taken off the field. First, let's discuss Itachi. Itachi's Mangekyou Sharingan grants him access to Tsukuyomi, Amaterasu, and Susanoo. Tsukuyomi is obviously a powerful genjutsu that traps its opponents in an illusionary world, causing them psychological damage. Amaterasu produces black flames that can burn anything, and Susanoo is a massive humanoid construct that provides both offense and defense capabilities, including the Totsuka Blade and Yadamir. Itachi's strategic mind and mastery over these techniques makes him one of the most dangerous opponents in Naruto. Next, we have Sasuke Uchiha. Sasuke's Mangekyou Sharingan abilities are similar to Itachi's, with the addition of Kakatsuchi, which allows him to control the shape and form of Amaterasu. Sasuke's Susanoo also evolves as well, like I said earlier, providing him with enhanced combat abilities. Sasuke's determination and combat experience adds to his prowess, making him a strong contender for this battle. Shisui Uchiha, known for his exceptional genjutsu skills, possesses the Kodo Matsukami, a powerful technique that can manipulate individuals' thoughts without even realizing. This ability is incredibly potent, and it can turn allies into enemies and vice versa. Shisui's speed and agility combined with his genjutsu prowess make him a dangerous opponent in any battle. And even though his Susanoo isn't necessarily canon to the series, we will in this case give him the Susanoo that was shown in the OVA scene in the Storm Revolution game. And finally, we have Obito. Obito's Mangekyou Sharingan grants him access to Kamui, which is a space-time ninjutsu that allows him to become intangible and teleport objects and himself to another dimension. This ability provides Obito with unparalleled versatility in both offense and defense. His experience as a member of the Akatsuki and his strategic mind further enhances combat capabilities. Furthermore, as I said earlier, he does also have his own respective Susanoo, which allows him to possess the Kamui Shuriken, which acts as an extension of Kamui's ability, where he can just throw the shuriken and warp away anything or whatever he comes into contact with. So I'm going to do something that might be a little bit unconventional when it comes to these versus battle videos, and that is that for the first and likely side scenario, I'm going to discuss how a fight between all 4 of them using their Susanoos would go down. I know that normally this probably wouldn't happen, like especially right out of the gate, but I think it would just be kind of fun to discuss how and see how it would go if it did happen. Now, to be blunt, I think the only ones that come out on top in this 4-way Susanoo fight would be either Itachi or Obito, right? I mean, because there's really not much that either Shisui or Sasuke Susanoo can do that would be able to really get through Itachi and Obito's defenses. I mean, Itachi, I guess, kinda, if they were to hit around the Susanoo, but Itachi does have a higher chance of tanking their hits from their Susanoo with the Yadamir. Itachi's biggest problem is going to be to deal with Obito's Susanoo for sure. Now, what I'm about to say is kind of headcanon, so don't take it as me saying it's guaranteed, but sometimes we see Susanoos have an extension of their users' respective abilities and are able to perform jutsus on their own. For example, we see in the fight between Naruto Naruto and Sasuke at the end of the final valley in part 2 that Sasuke uses fire style from his Susanoo, like while he's in his Susanoo, as if the Susanoo itself is performing the fire style jutsu. Or a better example would be how Sasuke can use his infernal style in conjunction with his Susanoo weapons. But honestly, I think the best example is Obito's Susanoo in the form of the Kamui Shuriken, as they act as an extension of how Kamui works. The reason I'm saying this is because if we assume the Susanoo's body itself can operate under the same logic, then it's possible that the Susanoo can phase through attacks the same way Obito himself can phase. If that is the case, then nothing that the other 3 Uchihas have is going to work against Obito. Now, granted, 2 things are good counters. One, like I said, it's totally headcanon. We've never actually seen something like that happen, and to be honest, when Kaguya shot a spear at Kakashi, it did crack the Susanoo, so if it could do that, then it's likely he would have done it. But 2, even if it was possible, being that Obito does not have Hashirama cells or 6-pass chakra in this fight, he can't consistently rely on Kamui, so the other 3 do have more room for an opportunity to land a decisive attack at the right time. However, the problem still lies in Kamui Shuriken on its own, because he can literally just delete bits and pieces of Sasuke's and Shisui's Susanoo from a safe distance, as well as any attacks that they throw at him, such as Sasuke's Susanoo arrow. When it comes to Itachi and fighting a Susanoo though, it's a bit more tricky. Now, the part I'm about to get to is a source of contention among the fandom. It's been debated over the years whether or not Kamui can affect or work on the Yadomir or Totsuka blade. The Yadomir because it's supposed to be able to change its properties in accordance with whatever it's colliding with, and the Totsuka blade because it's a spiritual weapon. First, let's talk about the Yadomir. Though it's not concrete, like beyond a shadow of a doubt, the description of the Yadomir sounds very similar to the true secret orbs that Obito and Madara possessed in the war arc. And we saw that Kakashi with his long-range Kamui was able to warp away and make an opening in Madara's true secret orbs he wrapped around himself to defend against Guy. So in all honesty, while I'm not 100% sure if Kamui itself can work on the Yadomir, that actually might be the closest thing we have to confirmation that it does. Plus, as a side feat that could work in its favor in this argument is that it seemed that Kamui itself is able to work on or warp away things that just at a glance sounds like it should be able to do, like Kaguya's dimensional portal. So maybe the Yadomir could be a similar case. I'm just, again, not 100% sure. When it comes to the Totsuka blade, I honestly have no clue. The only thing I can think of when it comes to spiritual weapons against Kamui is Naruto trying to hit Obito with his giant Kurama avatar hand, and Obito just being able to phase right through it. Now, I know that the Totsuka blade and the Kurama avatar hand aren't exactly the same thing, but the chakra hand is technically a spiritual element in a way. I mean, it's chakra. Chakra is a spiritual energy, so it's possible it works the same way. If it is in the same ballpark, we also did see Kurama's avatar tails be chopped off during his fight with Obito and Madara, so it's possible the Totsuka blade may work in a similar manner if it's hit with Kamui. Again, just not 100% sure. Now, again, like with the Yadomir section, I'm not saying this is a concrete argument. I could be totally wrong when it comes to this and the Kamui against Totsuka blade, and it just doesn't work that way. It's just the best I can come up with in this situation. If it doesn't, then Obito's best chance is to try to chip away Itachi's Susanoo around the Yadomir enough to create an opening to hit him with the Kamui from his eyes from a distance. I mean, you know, assuming that the Kamui versus Yadomir theory doesn't hold up either. If it does, then Obito can likely just go right through the mirror and with no trouble and just penetrate the Susanoo anyway. Otherwise, if the Susanoo's phasing theory also doesn't hold up, then Obito might be cooked, as Itachi has a giant target with the Totsuka blade. Now, granted, if he just hits the Susanoo, then Obito himself should be fine, and if anything, the Susanoo might just be sealed or it might be depleted for a bit. I'm not exactly sure if another person's Susanoo will be like permanently sealed away or if the user is able to use it again. But at the very least, Obito will be left without his Susanoo for at least a little bit. Now, just for the sake of conversation, when it comes to Sasuke versus Shisui Susanoo, I think Sasuke would be the winner. I mean, Shisui Susanoo doesn't really have any confirmed weapons on its own, at least none that have a distinct ability such as Kamui or the Totsuka blade, whereas Sasuke has a Susanoo arrow that he can use with Inferno style. So when it comes to just raw utility, I think Sasuke's Susanoo holds the advantage. So to wrap up the Susanoo four-way deadlock, I suppose you can call this, I think if certain theories that I mentioned earlier don't hold up, then I think Itachi has a better chance of winning. If they do, then I think Obito has a better chance. Now we'll move on to the portion without the Susanoo. And now when I say without the Susanoo, I mean mostly without the giant version. Obviously, I'm still giving them the small scale skeletal Susanoo for any defense that they might need, but I'd like to go over a fight scenario without them having to use their respective giant Susanoo. Like I said at the beginning of the video, each Uchiha has unlimited usage of their Sharingan ability, at least in regards with how long their Sharingan can hold out in accordance to how often they spam their MS abilities, which, like I alluded to earlier, in a fight like these with these four, it'll be more than likely that they will. Now, on the ninjutsu side of this, attacks like Amaterasu may or may not play a factor. I say may not because in Sasuke's case, it might be likely that they just cancel each other out, even though I still believe Itachi is more proficient with Amaterasu at this point than Sasuke, at least in terms of knowing when the best chance and time to use it is. To compensate, Sasuke has been able to develop and utilize Amaterasu into Inferno style style and even apply it to his Susanoo. I know that C said that Sasuke is better at using Amaterasu than Itachi, but to be honest, C barely even knew Itachi, so I'm not too sure that statement really lends any credence. When it comes to Shisui, it's possible he'd be able to just outright dodge Amaterasu, whether it's being shot at him by Sasuke or Itachi. I know that there's been numerous arguments in the past on how fast Shisui is compared to people like Minato, so without getting into that argument, let's just say that their speeds are at bare minimum relative to each other, and that if that is the case, then since Minato is faster than the Raikage, and if you do operate under the assumption that Shisui is at least relative to Minato in speed, then with his Sharingan giving him visual perception and his speed, and then I feel like it's more possible that Shisui will be able to dodge it more often than not. Now with Obito's case, I mean, the first is that he might just be able to phase right through it. I mean, I know Obito was quote unquote caught with Amaterasu when he first met Sasuke, but Obito was likely not expecting Sasuke's Sharingan to immediately form into a Mangu Sharingan, much less Itachi's Mangu Sharingan. But what I can say for that feat is that it might lend credence to the idea that Itachi can hit Obito with Amaterasu if he catches him off guard with some kind of careful plan. The thing is though, is that Obito is going to have both of his MS in this fight, so his visual perception is going to be double to whatever they were during his time when he only had one MS. And we saw that with just one MS, Obito was able to avoid and phase through an attack from the Raikage at point blank, who, like I said earlier, dodged Amaterasu at point blank with just his speed and instinct alone. So with Obito, he might likely be able to either dodge, phase, or just outright suck up the flames with Kamui in the first place. And even though he doesn't have Hashirama cells or 6-pass chakra to enhance his visual prowess, the fact that he has both MS this time means his speed for the Kamui is going to be doubled as well, which we already saw how fast Kakashi was in the war arc with Kamui with just one Sharingan, and with him not even being an Uchiha or its original owner. So at bare minimum, Obito's Kamui speed is going to be on the same level as Kakashi's was during the war arc with his one Sharingan. When it comes to Itachi using the Totsuka blade, I mean, without having to use its full extent Susanoo, the only one I feel he'd be able to definitely hit will be Sasuke. While Sasuke does have a chance of outright dodging or avoiding being hit by it, Shisui's speed and Obito's Kamui, they just have a better chance of survival against the Totsuka blade. Same sort of case with Sasuke's physical attacks. The only one I feel like he'd have the best chance of hitting is Itachi, though with Itachi being at hypothetical full power or hypothetical healthy state, it's likely that just with his being able to use the Totsuka blade in the small scale Susanoo, he could possibly do the same with the Yadomir to block anything that Sasuke or probably Shisui will throw at him. For Obito though, I'd say it might not be even a problem, as he could just outright go through the Yadomir itself. Genjutsu is something that I wasn't really sure will play a huge part in this fight, since all four of these fighters are pretty adept at using it. Itachi and Shisui for obvious reasons, as they were both hailed and praised for their use of Genjutsu, even gaining a reputation across all 5 great nations. With Sasuke, specifically 5 Kage Summit Sasuke, we see he's very proficient with Genjutsu, as he put Danzo in a Genjutsu that made him still believe he had Izanagi active and was able to land the finishing blow because of it. And Obito, while probably has less on-screen usage of Genjutsu than everyone else here, except for maybe Shisui, he was skilled enough to put Yagura, who was a perfect Jinchuriki, under a Genjutsu so powerful it made him have complete control over him. So all these Uchihas have substantial Genjutsu prowess. Now, many of you might be wanting me to go ahead and point out Tsukuyomi, which is definitely a problem for most people. However, not only do all 3 of these other Uchihas likely already know about Tsukuyomi, but they all also have a Mangu Sharingan of their own. So it's likely that they might just be able to break out of it, even if they do get caught in the first place. Now, granted, if any of them do get caught, if Itachi's fast enough, he could poke the one captured with the Totsuka blade and just steal them. So I'm not saying it's not at all possible, as what we did see Itachi eventually put heavy Sasuke in Tsukuyomi while he wasn't even going all out. And this would be Itachi in a much better condition than he was in that fight. But with how fast, hacked, and skilled in Genjutsu the other 3 are, I feel Tsukuyomi may or may not be the deciding factor. Personally, I feel like the one that he'd most likely be able to kill in this scenario is Sasuke. Shisui and Obito might be a bit tougher. Then again, Sasuke does have 2 summons that could possibly help him avoid eye contact, specifically his hawk, so I don't know. So without rambling too much more, I'm gonna go ahead and say who I feel comes out on top in this 4-way fight, with a 2-part answer. Because while Tsukuyomi may not be the ending factor in this, Kodo Matsukami might be. Meaning, of course, I feel like Shisui is possibly the one that ends up winning this. So here's the thing. The version of Kodo Matsukami that was used on Itachi in the war arc seems as though it needs direct eye contact for it to work or take effect. So like with the Tsukuyomi argument earlier, it may be a lot tougher to land that version of it than the one that Danzo used in the 5 Kage Summit arc against Mifune. With that version, Danzo was able to manipulate Mifune without him even realizing it at all that he was being controlled. So if Shisui is able to use that version against any one of the other Uchihas, say Obito for example, he could literally manipulate Obito and use him in this fight and use him as he sees fit, or to put way more pressure on the other Uchiha brothers. Or conversely, Shisui could try to manipulate Itachi and pretty much just add the Totsuka blade and Yadomir to his arsenal. If Shisui is able to pull this off, then I think he actually takes this as the combo of him and Obito, or vice versa, him and Itachi, would be too much for the other respective Uchihas to handle. And once the fight is over, Shisui can just force whoever he has control to just off himself in order to be the last one standing. But the catch-22 in this is that this version of Kodo Matsukami is not as potent as the other one. When I say that, I mean that while the other one that was used on Itachi could not be broken, even if Itachi knew what was going on and knew he was being controlled, the version that was used on Mifune broke out of it as soon as someone told him that he was under a particular Genjutsu. So in other words, if Shisui does control Obito, for example, and assuming Itachi and Sasuke can stay alive against them both long enough to notice something's off, then Itachi can likely tell Obito he's being controlled and break him out of the Genjutsu, and it becomes a four-way fight all over again. Now granted, this is assuming that Kodo Matsukami will be successfully pulled off in the first place. After all, we've never seen another Sharingan user be put under the Genjutsu, and Obito did seem to know that Shisui had this ability, so maybe this prior knowledge would help him prevent himself from being caught. I'm just not sure how one avoids this jutsu from being casted on them in the first place. If anyone does know, be sure to let me know in the comments, because I'm not 100% sure. The only thing I can say in this case for Kodo Matsukami being able to work is that Shisui seemed pretty convinced it would work against Fugaku in order to stop the coup d'etat, so maybe it could, maybe it couldn't. Now when I said I had a two-part cop-out answer for who I think wins this, it's that if the scenario I pitched just now with Shisui doesn't work, then I think the one who comes out on top of this one is Obito. Even without Hashirama cells or 6-pass chakra, Obito's Kamui is still a huge problem, and with just seeing how fast Kakashi was with it in the war arc, with just one being able to snipe a KCM2 Naruto heading towards Obito, and Obito not even being able to tell the clone was Kamui in the first place when it was right in front of him, or Kakashi being able to snipe Madara's shield away before a guy caught up to him. Yeah, plus again, with him having both of his eyes, his speed in both long range sniping and reaction time for his phasing is going to be double. Obito is just a walking hack. That's really not even mentioning that he can still also use a small scale Susanoo ribcage as an added layer of defense on top of his already hacked Kamui. Now what I will say is that Obito can't rely on Kamui forever at this time around, because he'll be way more likely to burn out his eyes the more he relies on it. But all things considered, the hacks of Kamui, the speed and reaction time he'll have, and the Susanoo and the Kamui Shuriken, I just think Obito has the best chance of survival at the very least. So if I had to do this in a tournament type placement, I'd say that first place is Obito, second place is Shisui if the Kodo Matsukami thing doesn't work. If it does, then it's vice versa. Shisui's number 1 and Obito's number 2. Third place is Itachi, and fourth place would be Sasuke. Now, I plan on doing a part 2 to this video with all 4 of these same Uchiha in the same condition fighting Madara. So it'll be Madara versus these 4. So be sure to stay tuned for that. But that's going to be it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. Please be sure to let me know in the comments who y'all think would win this Uchiha Battle Royale. Be sure to like and subscribe and click the bell for more notifications. Thank you all for watching, and until my next one, the lightning blade is out.